What is going on, guys? It's ThePowerBauer 2 here. Nintendo has released two Classic Edition consoles for the NES and the Super Nintendo. Both were amazing ideas to re-release all these famous titles on a new console that also has the same vibe as the original. Some other companies have even jumped on the bandwagon, as Sony is now releasing a PlayStation Classic that's basically the same thing as the Nintendo Classics, but I guess it's Sony, so we'll let it pass. I personally really like this idea by Sony, and I really hope it brings back the rivalry that Nintendo and Sony had back in the 90s. And what better way to continue this rivalry than for Nintendo to release a console that's from the same era as the PlayStation 1 in the Nintendo 64. There recently was a patent filed by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64 controller, and I don't know about you, but it kind of reminds me of the logos for the NES and the Super Nintendo Classics. Maybe it's something completely different, but I definitely believe that we could be getting a Nintendo 64 Classic Edition as soon as maybe the end of this year. And what I thought would be fun to do would be try to predict what games would be on this Nintendo 64 Classic Edition. Now, before we get into these predictions, just remember this is all speculation, and I'm not trying to say this is confirmed or anything, but this is what I believe Nintendo will do most likely. This isn't necessarily what I want the most, but is what I think is most likely for Nintendo to do for this console. Now, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, first off, I believe the Nintendo 64 Classic will be retailed at $100, similarly to the PlayStation 1 Classic. Nintendo will see this price point and likely match it because they will see that the PlayStation Classic is selling well, so they will just want to match it so they can get as high of a profit as possible. And I'm expecting the Nintendo 64 Classic to be even more sought after than the NES and Super Nintendo Classics, which makes me think they might put the price a little bit higher so they can earn a higher profit. But I still don't think it will go above $100. They're not that crazy. I expect one, maybe two controllers if we're lucky. The N64 controllers are much bigger than the NES or Super Nintendo controllers, so it'll be a lot more difficult to fit them in the same box if they want to keep the box the same size as those two. But I wouldn't be shocked if they increased the box just to give us another controller or two. Now that all the boring stuff is out of the way, let's get into what I'm sure you came here for, the games list. I expect 20 games on this console, as that's what the PlayStation Classic is giving us, and that's what we got for the SNES Classic. The games I believe we receive are 1080 Snowboarding, Bomberman 64, Donkey Kong 64, Excitebike 64, F-Zero X, Kirby 64, Zelda Majora's Mask, Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, Mario Party 2, Mega Man 64, Paper Mario, Pilot Wings 64, Pokemon Snap, Rayman 2 The Great Escape, Star Fox 64, Super Mario 64, Super Smash Bros., Wave Race 64, and Yoshi's Story. Of course, we have some of the big games like Mario and Ocarina of Time. I mean, we have to have those for this console. People would ride if we didn't include them, plus they're two of the most iconic games of all time. I also included Majora's Mask because although it's not as popular as Ocarina of Time, it definitely has its fans and it has seen a resurgence in popularity over the recent years. Now, I'm not the first person to do this topic, and I've seen a lot of lists that have Mario Tennis and Mario Golf and games like that, and I just don't really see them doing that. I could see Mario Tennis because of Mario Tennis Aces that came out recently, and many people might want to go back and play the first game. Well, technically the original's on the Virtual Boy, and I don't see a Virtual Boy Classic coming anytime soon. I only went with Mario Kart 64 because come on. And Mario Party 2 because it's the best Mario Party on the system, and they're not going to release Mario Party 1 because of control stick spinning. And then we have Paper Mario, a game that I love, but came out really late in Nintendo 64's life, so not enough people have really played it. And a lot of people who have played it probably only played it on the Virtual Console on the Wii. I think people deserve to play this on its original console, which is why I included it in the Nintendo 64 Classic. Now, most of the titles I included on this list are very popular titles that I just feel we have to have. 1080 Snowboarding, Bomberman 64, Excitebike, F-Zero X, Kirby 64, Pilot Wings, Star Fox, Wave Race, and Yoshi's Story. And then of course we have Smash Bros. I feel like that'll be a great way to market this console, especially with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming out. People are going to be so hyped up on the Smash Bros. Craze, they're going to want to play it on any console possible. Now, Mega Man 64 isn't necessarily the best Mega Man game, but it definitely has its fans, and it will give us a nice variety instead of including just another Mario game. This is the same reasoning I had with Rayman 2. It's an excellent platformer that I feel like not enough people have played. And again, it'll just make us not have nearly as many Mario titles, because I feel like they want to have a lot more variety in these consoles. There weren't too many Pokemon games that I could choose from. I mean, they're the Pokemon Stadium games, but I decided to go with Pokemon Snap because of how unique of a game it is. Instead of capturing and battling Pokemon, you take pictures of them to fill out your Pokedex, which I think is a really cool idea, but it's also a lot different, to say the least. The Pokemon Stadium games are great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we're going to get them. But if we did get one, I think it would likely be Pokemon Stadium 1 just for nostalgia's sake. Although, to be honest, I think Pokemon Stadium 2 is way better. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, where is games like Banjo-Kazooie? Well, Rare is currently owned by Microsoft, which means we can't have any of their games that they were released on Nintendo 64. The only game we can have is Donkey Kong 64 because the characters in the game are owned by Nintendo. This sadly means we can't have games like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, GoldenEye 007, or Perfect Dark. However, Microsoft and Nintendo have sort of built a sort of friendship over the recent years. They've allowed for cross-platform play with Minecraft, which already is a big step in the right direction. They have seemed like they're open to working together, so I'm not going to say it's impossible for Nintendo to get the Rare games, but I'm not going to hold my breath either. If we get some, great, but if we don't, I will not be surprised. So those are the games that I believe will be released on the Nintendo 64 Classic Edition. Many of those games are fan favorites and are just great ways to market the console. Again, I'm not saying those are the games I want the most, but those are the games I think would be the most likely and most probable for them to do. Now, I could end the video there, as the N64 is likely the only console that's going to receive a Classic Edition anywhere in the near future. But I'm a greedy jerk who wants more, so why don't we look at the GameCube and the Wii? I don't expect these to get a Classic Edition anytime soon, but these obviously would be the next ones in line. Once again, this is all for fun and speculation, and I don't expect these to be released anytime soon, but I mean, again, I just want to have fun. I would predict there to be 20 games again on both of these consoles. I mean, what would it be anything else? Let's start with a Nintendo GameCube. The 20 games I have are Animal Crossing, Chibi Robo, F-Zero GX, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Kirby Air Ride, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Party 6, Metroid Prime 2, Pikmin 2, Pokemon XD, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, Star Fox Assault, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Monkey Ball 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Zelda Twilight Princess, and Zelda Wind Waker. Again, just like the Nintendo 64, we have the big Mario and Zelda games in Sunshine, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker. These are just a necessity, and although Twilight Princess was released on the Wii as well, I think it deserves a spot on the GameCube. I included the Mario Kart for the system as well as the best Mario Party because these are just fan favorites. Everyone loves Mario Kart and Mario Party, don't lie, you do. This was also the first console where we received a Luigi game in Luigi's Mansion, and it has seen so much popularity over recent years, I just think we need to include it too. Metroid skipped a generation with the Nintendo 64, but it came back swinging with the GameCube and gave us the Metroid Prime trilogy. These are some of my favorite games of all time, and they are regarded as one of the best Metroid games of all time. Kirby and Star Fox didn't really have any major big selling games, but Air Ride and Star Fox Assault are both amazing games that deserve to be on the console and will also give us a nice variety. We also have F-Zero GX because it's the best F-Zero game ever made, so we need to have it on this console. Fire Emblem wasn't super popular before Super Smash Bros. Melee over here in the West. That led to Fire Emblem Path of Radiance becoming more popular, which led to more and more Fire Emblem games, so we need to have the first game that was really popular. And as I said, we need Melee because it's the most popular Smash Bros. Game. We could not release a GameCube classic without Melee. The GameCube also introduced us to the Animal Crossing and Pikmin series, both of which have become wildly popular over the years, so I think we need to include the ones that started them all. I also included Pikmin 2 because although it's not as popular as the first one, it's still a great game, and I feel like not enough people have played it, especially on the GameCube. Now, I struggle if I should put Pokemon Colosseum or XD, but I decided to put XD because even though they're both very similar games, I just think it's a better game. Plus, it has Shadow Lugia. How is it not better? And then I included some smaller but still very popular titles in Super Monkey Ball 2, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Chibi Robo. So many people have childhood memories with Monkey Ball and Sonic Adventure, which will really help drive sales for the console. And then I included Chibi Robo because, why not? Now that we've covered the GameCube, let's dive into the Nintendo Wii. The games that I think will be released are Animal Crossing City Folk, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, Kirby's Epic Yarn, Mario Kart Wii, Metroid Prime 3, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Okami, Pokemon Battle Revolution, Punch-Out, Rhythm Heaven Fever, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Sonic Colors, Super Mario Galaxy 2, WarioWare Smooth Moves, Wii Party, Wii Sports, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Zelda Skyward Sword. Of course, we have our Mario and our Zelda games. The Galaxy games are regarded as some of the best 3D Mario games of all time, so I feel like we need to include them. And although Skyward Sword isn't as widely beloved as the rest of the Zelda games, it's still a phenomenal 3D Zelda game and my second favorite of all time, so we need to have it. We also have Brawl because it's better than Melee. Please don't kill me. Along with Mario Kart Wii and New Super Mario Bros. Wii because they are both wildly popular games. We just need a Mario Kart game, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii was the rebirth of 2D Mario games on home consoles. It also allowed for 4-player gameplay, which I obviously think would be a huge selling point for this console. Metroid Prime 3 is the best Metroid game on the console because, well, we don't talk about the other one. Kirby's Epic Yarn is a really unique and phenomenal Kirby game, and I think I personally like it more than Return to Dreamland. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn and Animal Crossing City Folk aren't the best games in their respective franchises, but both of those franchises are still amazing and they deserve representation on this console. The only Pokemon game that even comes close to deserving a spot is Pokemon Battle Revolution, so there you go. Rhythm Heaven Fever and WarioWare Smooth Moves aren't as popular of games, but they definitely have their fans, and they are really unique games that they deserve to have a place on this console. We also have Punch-Out because it is a phenomenal remake of the original, and it has its own flair and style. Donkey Kong Country Returns was an amazing return to the 2D Donkey Kong style. The last Donkey Kong Country game came out 14 years before this one was released, so we needed a new one. Plus, this game is actually a really good 2-player platformer too. We then have 2 brand new series in Okami and Xenoblade. Both were brand new for the Wii, and they've become immensely popular over the years. Plus, both these games have just a great story, and more people deserve to play these. And lastly, we have Wii Party and Wii Sports. The 2 Mario games on the Wii were less than spectacular, to say the least. So I thought, why don't we include the Wii's unique party game in Wii Party? It's very similar to Mario Party, but it has its own style, mini games, boards, game modes, and everything. And I included Wii Sports because it's Wii Sports, come on. You can't have a Wii console without Wii Sports. So there you have it. Those are the games that I believe were released on the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and the Wii Classic Editions. As I said earlier, the GameCube and Wii consoles were more so just for fun and speculation because I don't expect those to be coming out anytime soon. But I do think the Nintendo 64 Classic could be coming out as soon as later this year. I mean, that patent really makes me think that it is on the way soon. But please let me know what you thought about my list in the comments down below, or even just leave your own list if you have that much time to do it. I only covered these 3 consoles because these are the only ones that I can really see receiving a Classic Edition. I mean, maybe some of the handhelds, but I think those would be more likely just be on the Virtual Console. And then that just leaves us with... yeah, no. Your console first needs 20 games worth playing before it can receive a Classic Edition. Sorry.